Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is enjoying their day. Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. The Young and the Restless spoilers. Tuesday, August 5th, Jill's rage, Nikki's family feud, Phyllis's self-protection. Get updates on the latest news about The Young and the Restless, straight to your inbox. We use your personal data for interest-based advertising, as outlined in our privacy notice. What is this? The Young and the Restless spoilers are in for Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. In tomorrow's episode, fans can expect Jill Abbott, Jess Walton, to have a heated debate with Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson. Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford, protects her interests. Plus, Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, and Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, argue about family matters. Keep reading and let's talk about what is coming up in the CBS soap opera. Claire Grace Newman's disgust. Let's start off with Claire Grace Newman, Haley Aaron, who had a heated confrontation with Victor on the day of Cole Howard's, J. Eddie Peck, memorial service. Make sure to check out our weekly Y&R spoilers, here. The patriarch made a comment and Claire called him out for it being about Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer. Then, the blonde announced she was done and stormed out of the house, Kyle quickly following behind her. Nikki Newman's family feud. As Claire grapples with her grandfather's devious actions, Nikki will be trying to do damage control. The blonde gets into a fiery argument with her husband about Claire and Kyle. What is this? Read more. Find out what happened on the last episode of GH. The Newman matriarch knows Victor doesn't like or approve of Kyle, but it's not his life. That life belongs to Claire and she has the right to be with who she wants. Of course, Victor won't agree and the two will not be able to compromise on this. At least, not right now. That is likely what prompts Nikki to ask Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman, for a favor later in the week. Jill Abbott's heated debate. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Tuesday, August 5th reveal that Jill and Billy will have a heated debate. This will likely be about Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn, and Chancellor. Jill will also have to deal with the bombshell that Chancellor, Connor Floyd, died and ironically, he wasn't even on duty when it happened. Jill always worried about that, it is why she pushed Chance into business. As Jill deals with the grief, she will also have some things to make clear to Billy. After all, he is making a deal with the devil. The Young and the Restless, Tuesday, August 5th, Jill's rage, Nikki's family feud, Phyllis's self-protection. The early hours of Tuesday in Genoa City didn't arrive quietly. The morning sun barely peeked through the clouds before the Abbott mansion was struck with a whirlwind of fury, Jill Abbott's fury, to be exact. Dressed in dark navy and dripping in contempt, Jill barged through the heavy front doors of the Abbott estate, ignoring the butler's stunned expression. She wasn't there for pleasantries. She was there for blood. Billy Abbott, who had just settled into his morning coffee and strategy session on Chancellor Winter's recent PR nightmare, barely had time to look up before his mother's voice cracked through the silence like a whip. "How dare you shut me out of my company's crisis?" Billy stood, instinctively defensive. "Jill, I've got this handled." "Oh, don't give me that smug little smirk, Billy," Jill snapped, pacing furiously. "Do you honestly believe I didn't hear about the scandal in New York? That Nate Hastings had to do damage control while my son played executive on vacation? I wasn't on vacation. I was working, and I had Devin and Lily looped in. You're reacting without having all the facts." "The facts are this," Jill said, stabbing a manicured finger into the air, "you made a decision to keep me in the dark. And now Chancellor Winters is in headlines for all the wrong reasons. There's talk of a board shakeup, investors getting cold feet. Do you have any idea what that means for our bottom line?" Jill's voice thundered through the room, echoing against decades-old walls that had seen more family drama than most courtrooms. But this time, it wasn't just about the business. It was personal. Her eyes softened for a brief second, betraying her fury with a glimmer of hurt. "I built that company, Billy. I trusted you. Billy's features hardened. Then trust me now. I did what I had to do because the situation was volatile. You weren't here. Because I was taking care of your brother's estate in Europe. You act like I'm lounging on some yacht in the French Riviera. I've been working my tail off to preserve our legacy. And what do I come home to? You and Devon at odds, Lily stretched thin, and Nate on the verge of quitting. Again. As Jill and Billy's argument reached a boiling point, a new storm brewed across town at the Newman Ranch, where Nikki Newman was embroiled in a battle of her own, one that threatened to fracture her family in a way no business feud ever could. Nikki sat rigidly in the leather chair beside the fireplace, her fingers wrapped around a delicate teacup, though she hadn't taken a sip. Her expression was unreadable, yet her eyes screamed war. Across from her sat Victoria, arms crossed, jaw clenched, looking every bit like Victor's heir apparent. The tension between mother and daughter had been building for weeks, but today it reached the surface. I will not sit by while you coddle that girl, Nikki said coldly. Claire is unstable. She's traumatized. And frankly, I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Victoria's eyes flared. She is my daughter. I don't need your permission to protect her. You don't need permission to be her mother, but you do need perspective, Nikki shot back. She was raised in a cult, manipulated into attempting murder, and now you've brought her into our home like none of it ever happened. I'm trying to give her a sense of normalcy, something she never had. Normalcy? In this house? Nikki laughed bitterly. Even Victor doesn't believe she belongs here, and he's willing to forgive just about anything if it benefits the family name. Victoria rose to her feet, her voice shaking. You're treating Claire like an outsider when she's a Newman. She's not the enemy. She's the victim. Are you so blinded by guilt that you can't see the threat she poses? What about Johnny and Katie? What if Claire's next episode happens while she's alone with them? That's enough. Victoria's voice cracked like thunder. Claire is in therapy. She's on medication. She's making progress, and if you can't support her, then stay out of her way. Don't push me away, Victoria. You may not like what I have to say, but I'm trying to save this family from another tragedy. The conversation ended not with a resolution but with a long, simmering silence. One that promised things were far from over. While Jill and Nikki battled over business and blood, another woman in Genoa City took a very different approach to survival. Phyllis Summers, ever the calculating firecracker, was done playing the victim. After barely escaping prison time and clawing her way back into polite society, she had one goal now: self-preservation. Phyllis sat at society, laptop open, phone buzzing, and her eyes fixed on the man who just walked through the door. Tucker McCall. Slick, dangerous, and entirely too amused to see her. Phyllis, he drawled, sliding into the seat across from her. Still pretending to be a civilian, I see. Don't flatter yourself, Tucker, she replied, not looking up. This meeting isn't about reminiscing. He leaned forward, intrigued. Then what's it about? I want protection, Phyllis said bluntly. And I know you've got the connections. Tucker raised an eyebrow. Protection from what? Or should I say, who? Phyllis finally looked up, her expression unreadable. I made a deal with the devil to stay out of jail. That devil was Christine. But there's another one now. Her name is Audra Charles. Tucker tilted his head. What's Audra done? She's digging, Phyllis whispered. Into my finances, my tech contracts, and my past. And I have reason to believe she's working with someone. Possibly Kyle. Possibly even Adam. That's a dangerous trio. No kidding, Phyllis said. That's why I want something untraceable. Something that keeps them in check without me getting my hands dirty. You know, Tucker said, smiling slyly, you're a lot like me. Always thinking 2 moves ahead. But the difference is, I don't pretend to be the good guy. Phyllis leaned in. I'm not pretending anymore. Back at the Abbott house, Jill had finally stormed out, leaving behind a shaken Billy and a tense silence. Tracy wandered in moments later, frowning. Is everything all right? Billy shook his head. Jill's back, and she's pissed. She thinks I'm running Chancellor Winters into the ground. Tracy sighed, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. She's scared, Billy. This company is more than a job to her. It's her identity. Yeah, well, she needs to stop micromanaging from a distance. Maybe, Tracy agreed softly. But maybe you need to stop shutting everyone out too. Across town, at Crimson Lights, Claire Grace sat at a corner table with Johnny. It was their first solo outing since Victoria had introduced her back into the family fold, and the air between them was hesitant but warm. I used to come here with Mom all the time, Johnny said, sipping a hot chocolate. She liked the almond croissants. Claire smiled faintly. I remember. I used to watch you guys from the park sometimes. Before I knew who you really were. Johnny glanced at her carefully. Do you ever wish you didn't know? Claire paused. Sometimes. But then I think, maybe this is my second chance. If you and Katie can accept me, maybe I can start over. Johnny nodded slowly. We're still figuring it out. But I think. I want to try. As the day wound down, Nikki returned to the ranch only to find Victor waiting with a file folder in his hands. What's this? She asked. Something you should see, Victor said, handing it over. Background check. On Claire's doctor. Turns out he has ties to the same foundation that funded Ashland Locke's fake treatments. Nikki's eyes widened. You think Claire's being manipulated again? I think we can't afford to be naive. Not this time. Meanwhile, Phyllis returned to her suite at the Grand Phoenix, only to find an envelope slipped under her door. Inside was a single photo, her meeting with Tucker, and a note that read, "You're not as invisible as you think." Phyllis's face paled. The war had begun, and this time, she wasn't sure who her real enemy was. Back in the shadows of Genoa City, Audra Charles clicked through a folder on her encrypted tablet. Beside her sat Kyle Abbott, his jaw tight, eyes focused. She met with Tucker, Audra said. Just like we predicted. Kyle nodded. Good. Let's see how she likes being the one backed into a corner for once. But what neither of them realized was that Phyllis had already anticipated this. Her real meeting hadn't been with Tucker, it had been with Heather Stevens. And Heather? She had her own plan. She's baiting them, Heather told Daniel later that evening. She wants them to make the first move. Then she'll strike. Is it safe? Daniel asked. Heather smiled. No. But it's Phyllis. Safety was never her style. As the night closed in on Genoa City, its citizens rested uneasily, knowing full well that tomorrow would bring more revelations, more betrayals, and more secrets clawing their way to the surface. Jill was already on the phone with a high-powered attorney. Nikki was planning to confront the doctor. Victoria was digging into Claire's case files. Phyllis was calling in favors. And Audra? She was already meeting with someone new, someone powerful. Someone named Jeremy Stark. And as Tuesday faded into Wednesday, one thing was clear. The past was back. The claws were out. And no one in Genoa City would be safe. The Young and the Restless, Wednesday, August 6th, Victor's trap, Audra's power move, Phyllis strikes first. The dawn that broke over Genoa City on Wednesday brought no calm. Clouds loomed thick over the Newman Ranch and cast a gloom over the Abbott estate, but it wasn't just the weather. Everyone in town seemed to know something was coming, something dangerous, inevitable, and calculated. Victor Newman stood in his office with the poise of a man ready to make a move. The file he'd handed Nikki the night before was only part of the truth. The rest he kept close to his chest, including the trap he was setting in motion. He had seen too many games played in his lifetime, but this one, with Claire, Victoria, and Nikki entangled, required precision. One wrong move, and the entire Newman legacy could crack. "Michael," Victor said into the phone. "I need you to prepare a legal strategy." Quietly. "I want surveillance on the doctor and anyone he contacts in Genoa City." Michael Baldwin's voice came through, cool and sharp. "You think someone is feeding Claire false therapy?" "I don't think," Victor replied. "I know. And I intend to find out who's pulling the strings." Meanwhile, Audra Charles sat at a glass conference table inside Newman Media's top floor, her stilettos clicking as she rose and looked out the window at the city skyline. Opposite her sat Kyle Abbott, brooding, tense, and very much under pressure. "I just got off the phone with Tucker," Audra said casually. "He's intrigued. But he wants a guarantee." Kyle folded his arms. "Guarantee of what?" "That Phyllis is neutralized. He's still pissed about her leaking those financial records last quarter. You remember? The ones that nearly tanked Glissade stock before launch?" Kyle scoffed. "Phyllis never learns." "Oh, she learns," Audra corrected. "She just never plays fair." Kyle hesitated. "Are we sure about using Jeremy Stark?" Audra smiled, lips curling with dangerous elegance. "You want results, don't you? Stark has the connections to make Phyllis disappear. Quietly. Or at the very least, scared enough to back off." Kyle wasn't convinced. He still had a shred of decency in him. But Audra? She had already shredded hers long ago. Across town, Phyllis was 2 steps ahead. Her contact with Heather Stevens had paid off. Not only had Heather confirmed that Christine Williams was reopening an investigation into Stark's recent parole violations, she had also obtained sealed documents from a prior RICO case in New York. Those files held information that could destroy Audra. "Daniel," Phyllis said as she paced her suite, waving the redacted papers in the air, "did you know Audra used to go by a different name? Anna Delgado. She was involved with a hedge fund laundering money for a pharmaceutical ring." Daniel blinked. "How is that not public?" "Because the case never went to trial. Her boyfriend at the time took the fall. She vanished, reappeared as Audra Charles, and got herself embedded in Newman Media." Daniel exhaled. "That's why she's always 5 steps ahead." "Exactly," Phyllis grinned. "But now I'm 5.5. She uploaded the files to an encrypted drive, then texted Tucker, "Let's talk. I have something you'll want to see." Alone. Meanwhile, at the Newman Ranch, Victoria was growing more distant from her mother by the minute. Nikki could feel it in every clipped conversation and each hesitant glance. Nikki stood outside Claire's door, watching her from a slight crack. Claire sat on the floor, painting. Calm. Focused. Almost too calm. "She reminds me of Cassie," Nikki whispered to herself. Right before everything fell apart. Victoria stepped into the hallway, voice tired. "If you're here to watch her like a hawk, don't. I'm here to protect you. All of you." Victoria shook her head. "No. You're here because you're afraid." "Of course I am." Nikki snapped. "And you should be too." Victoria didn't answer. She just walked away, leaving Nikki with the ache of knowing her daughter was slipping further into denial. Elsewhere, Jill Abbott sat with Devon and Lily at Society. She had called the meeting as a truce, but also a warning. "I'm taking back more control of Chancellor Winters," Jill said firmly, sipping her tea. "Too many egos. Too many secrets. And not enough results." Devon arched a brow. "Are you firing Billy?" "Not yet," Jill answered. "But I'm watching him. And Nate too. Lily frowned. You're walking into a war zone, Jill. I built this company from scraps. If I have to burn it down to rebuild it right, I will. As the Abbott family weathered one storm, another was brewing, literally and figuratively. Phyllis met Tucker in Chancellor Park, just after sunset. He stood beneath the gazebo, waiting with his usual smug grin. So, what am I looking at? Phyllis handed him the drive. Audra's real past. Full dossier. No redactions. Tucker's grin vanished as he scanned the files on his phone. His breath hitched slightly. Where did you get this? You really want to know? Phyllis asked. Or do you want to use it before she uses you? Tucker pocketed the drive. You're playing a dangerous game, Red. I always have, Phyllis smirked. But I've never lost when it really mattered. Back inside Newman Media, Audra received a call from an anonymous number. She answered, and a distorted voice replied, "He knows." Audra went cold. She knew exactly who he was, and what he now had. "Get me Jeremy Stark," she said through gritted teeth. "Tell him we may need to accelerate our timeline." But Jeremy Stark wasn't in Genoa City yet. He was boarding a private jet with his own plan, a plan that didn't include doing Audra's bidding. "She wants me to take out Phyllis," he muttered to himself, pulling a manila envelope from his briefcase. "But maybe I go for the bigger prize." Inside the envelope, a photo of Diane Jenkins. "I always finish what I start." As night fell on Genoa City, the pieces on the board were shifting fast. Victor's trap was ready to snap. Audra's power was slipping. Phyllis was no longer just protecting herself, she was hunting. And Jeremy Stark? He was coming for everyone. The Young and the Restless, Thursday, August 7th, Diane in danger, Jeremy Stark's return, Victor's ultimatum, Audra cornered, Phyllis unleashed. Morning in Genoa City arrived with a deceptive peace. But it wouldn't last. The day opened at the Abbott mansion with Diane Jenkins smiling across the table at Jack, sipping her tea as if the past few months hadn't been a series of endless storms. She had been trying to prove she could be trusted, trying to rebuild the fractured legacy left behind by her past decisions. Jack believed in her. Kyle? Not so much. And neither did fate. Because Diane's peaceful morning was shattered by the buzz of the gate intercom. She answered it casually, expecting a delivery or possibly one of Harrison's tutors. But when she heard the voice, her stomach dropped. Well. Did you miss me, sweetheart? Diane's teacup slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. Jeremy, she whispered. Surprised? Stark's voice echoed, chillingly calm. I thought I'd stop by. Old friends shouldn't part on bad terms. Jack walked in just in time to see the blood drain from Diane's face. What is it? Jeremy Stark, she breathed, trembling. He's back. Jack's expression darkened instantly. Get Harrison out of the house. Now. Meanwhile, Jeremy Stark stepped out of his car near Chancellor Park, taking in the town that once nearly destroyed him, and which he now planned to destroy in return. He had a hit list. And at the top? Diane Jenkins and Phyllis Summers. But his methods had changed. No more intimidation. This time, he wanted to burn everything down from the inside. Across town at Newman Ranch, Victor's patience had officially run out. He stood in his office, flanked by two private investigators and Michael Baldwin, whose face was taut with concern. Victor turned to them. I want Jeremy Stark located and followed. I want everything on the Dr. Victoria hired for Claire. And I want to know exactly what Audra Charles is hiding. No more excuses. Michael hesitated. Victor, if this spirals, it won't be quiet. Then let it spiral, Victor growled. Let the whole damn city see what happens when you cross the Newmans. Victoria entered moments later, weary from another tense evening with Claire. "Daddy." "Enough," Victor snapped. "You made your bed with Claire. If she brings danger into this house, you'll be the one answering for it. Now go check on your daughter. And keep her away from Diane Jenkins. Jeremy Stark is back." Victoria's eyes widened. "What? How?" "Doesn't matter how. What matters is stopping what's coming next." As news of Stark's return started spreading through back channels, Audra Charles received a coded message on her encrypted device. A single line, "Control your problem or I will." She didn't need to ask who sent it. Tucker had the file. And now the walls were closing in. Audra called Kyle. "I need you to come to my suite. Now. No questions." Within 15 minutes, Kyle arrived, his expression tight and guarded. "What's going on?" Audra paced. "Tucker knows. About my past. Phyllis gave him everything." Kyle narrowed his eyes. "So what's the plan?" "Damage control. I need you to get close to your mother again. Jeremy Stark's return is the perfect distraction." Kyle blinked. "You want me to spy on my own mother?" Audra's tone was ice. "Do you want your seat at the table or not? Because right now, we both have a lot to lose." Back at the Grand Phoenix, Phyllis sat by her window, legs crossed, drink in hand, watching the storm build. She wasn't shaken by Stark's return. In fact, she welcomed it. If everyone was going to war, she might as well draw first blood. She grabbed her phone and dialed. "Christine? It's Phyllis. You're gonna want to reopen the case on Jeremy Stark." Christine scoffed on the other end. "And why would I listen to anything you say?" "Because," Phyllis said, her voice velvet smooth, "I have proof he violated parole. And if you don't act now, someone might not make it." Phyllis smiled. "Already done. Check your email." Title: Ticking Time Bomb. As the sun climbed over Genoa City, Diane was now under lockdown. Jack had increased security around the Abbott estate, even moving Harrison to the Newman Ranch temporarily. But Diane wasn't content to hide. "I'm not going to live in fear again, Jack," she said. "If Stark is back, we confront him. Together." "No," Jack replied firmly. "We don't play his game. We beat him at ours." But Diane had her own secret. One she hadn't told Jack. During her months away from Genoa City years ago, during her death, she had crossed paths with someone in Jeremy's circle. Someone dangerous. Someone she double-crossed. And now, she wondered if Jeremy's return was about more than revenge. Perhaps it was unfinished business she thought she buried for good. At Society, Nate Hastings had lunch with Devon, and both men spoke in low tones. "You hear about Stark?" Nate asked. Devon nodded. "That guy doesn't return unless he has an angle." Nate leaned in. "What if Audra's the reason he came back?" Devon's eyes narrowed. "You think she summoned him?" "I think she's hiding something. And Stark doesn't move unless he's paid or promised." Devon sat back, thinking. Time to test her loyalty. At Newman Media, Audra received an invitation from Devon for a private strategy meeting later that evening. She accepted, but she wasn't a fool. She knew the trap was baited. So, she baited her own. She made a call. "Tucker? You want the rest of my secrets, don't you? Fine. Meet me tonight. But come alone." By nightfall, 3 meetings were set in motion, each capable of exploding. Victor met Christine in his office to coordinate Stark's takedown. "If you find proof of a hit list," Victor told her, "you go public. Expose him." Phyllis, now armed with leverage, made one last call, to Diane. "Meet me. Tonight. Chancellor Park. If you don't show, the next target on Stark's list might not be you, it might be Kyle. And in his dark hotel suite, Jeremy Stark studied a photo of his next move. A close-up of Nikki Newman, smiling with Claire at a charity gala. You take my freedom. I take your peace. As the day came to a close, the streets of Genoa City buzzed with tension. War had been declared. Secrets were loaded like bullets. And every handshake was a potential betrayal. Because in Genoa City, power isn't taken with kindness, it's taken with strategy, secrets, and survival. And Thursday was only the beginning. Read this, cast cuts and firings, should the young and the restless fans worry about the soap's fate? Tuesday, August 5, 2025. Meanwhile, expect Phyllis to work hard to protect her interests. Billy and Phyllis have to work together or the deal won't work. However, Phyllis will likely make sure that she looks like the loyal one to Kane.